Welcome to the Magdalene interview series. Today, I have with me Julia Weigert, who has done a lot of traveling in relation to Mary Magdalene. And I'm Melissa Keenan. If you're new to the show or you haven't experienced this show before, I've created the Magdalene interview series to really widen the conversation around what Mary Magdalene and Black Madonna mean to us, and come from a more whole perspective that as we allow ourselves to see all the many faces and sides and facets of Mary Magdalene, it allows us to drop more deeply into all the many faces and facets and aspects of what it means to be ourselves fully, and therefore influences how we are leading and how we are influencing the women around us in our world today. So all of this is in conjunction with the South of France pilgrimage that I'm leading. And if you're interested, there's a link above. And we also have links above for you to connect with Julia. And so without further ado, Julia, thank you for coming on to the show. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do in the world. Let's start there.
Thanks for having me. And thank you also for, hosting these wonderful conversations. I've tuned into a few, and it's so lovely to hear all these different perspectives, just like the petals of the rose coming together.
Thank you. Absolutely. That's exactly how I feel. I'm like, I'm already on the pilgrimage.
Yes, yes. Totally. Yeah. So my name is Julia. I was born and raised in Germany. I've been living in Switzerland for 15 years. This really feels like my home country in a way, and the land that I chose to live on. For much of my life, so I come from a corporate background, and I've always been, super sensitive in a way. I've been a deep seeker, I've been a deep feeler, but also kind of like in the successful environment where we strive and thrive, and all of that. But then there was a deep point in my life where internally I felt nothing is right anymore, and that ultimately got me on the path. And retrospectively, a lot of the things and a lot of the puzzle pieces fell into place where I understood that it was mostly the land and travels that I've been doing all through my life, even also for work, that initiated me into a deeper layer of like understanding of who I was, of connecting with past lives and connecting with my gifts. And this is, came in a process, I want to say. And now it really feels like my passion to specifically guide women into and onto pilgrimages, but also pilgrimages into self, because for me it is the sacred mirror that we are walking as the within and without. And a lot of also the Magdalene teachings that I am following, and that I am also training women in, give this perspective of this mirroring, and whatever happens outside, or that is a reflection of our inner world, and places that we visit can trigger and activate certain understanding, certain gifts that we are holding within our body.
Wow, so beautiful. There were so many nuggets that you shared there that I want to go into. One of the things you just said was that your travels, even through your corporate position, are part of what kind of helped you wake up to a deeper calling or a deeper sense of who you are. And that's so fascinating to me. Like, I want to hear more about that, because there is something about land and culture and different approaches, lineages to spirituality. I'd love to hear more about your experience with that.
Well, where even to start, right? So let's maybe start by this. One of the things that I very often talk about is what might be commonly known as the path of the initiate. You might have heard about that, and so it's a concept that I actually came to understand. That a lot of temples or temple landscapes, or even cathedral landscapes, if we look at Europe, pyramids are built on very specific nodal points that the ancient ones knew about, that also Magdalene or the Magdalenes traveled to in different traditions to receive these teachings in a way. And for me, it really started as a kid, like
Julia.
way back.
Let's see here. Okay. All right. You landed off with the like temple sites, and it started for you as a kid.
Yes. Where I deeply felt Egypt and Greece, for example, like ancient civilizations that I was drawn to, I felt really connected to without any logical reason for that. And of course, later on, and then also the first time that I actually traveled to Egypt, I understood why that was, because there are past lives connected to it, like vows that we might made as in former lifetimes or priestess priestess lifetimes, and also the other way around, like when I traveled for my job, for example, there was a situation in Thailand that didn't end very well, if you want to put it like this, which also triggered a very deep wounding in a way. And back then, you could just say like, yeah, okay, like she's that girl that travels a lot and always there's that weird stuff happening to her. But there was a deeper pattern to it, and this is what I started to uncover, and that's also ultimately what led me to connect deeper to the energy of places and what I call it the sacred site medicine of places that we can find there.
Mm, mm. I really relate to that in only the one bit of leaving the United States that I have done to a sacred place. I didn't know I was going to a sacred place, but I found myself in Costa Rica last spring. It was my first time really leaving the country, and rainforest medicine, and it kicked my ass. And I am so like, wow, just in awe and in gratitude. So this element, and certainly like, going to different sacred sites that are also here, like this element of going and being in proximity with the land and being in proximity with these, like, I feel like when you start to wake up and see that earth is so much more than just earth. And I often, just even on hikes, will go and touch rocks and trees and think how many, in rock cases, like maybe millions of years, has this rock been witnessing what is going on around it, and like what wisdom does it hold. And so when you just think about that, and then you think about in relation to a place where for thousands of years there have been like sacred rituals happening and people coming into connection with source, connection with their truth,
Yeah.
like what magic that land carries.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like, I like to think of it as this etheric library in a way where all of these codes are literally stored, and stone, like crystal, is one of them. Another is water. Like, yeah, water is a carrier of consciousness and conduit. And so, such as you are also going to the south of France, I feel the Magdalene current is really like ingrained in the land there. And so when we walk, we are receiving these codes and literally as like cellular information in our field, in our body. And that's where we can, with this reverence and devotion, also connect to this, to the question, maybe how do we want to show up as a Magdalene? And for me, a Magdalene really is that light holder, right? That pillar of light that we all need at this time of awakening and chaos and war in the world right now.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. It's like this undercurrent that continues to swell and grow, that it is my hope, through these sort of grassroots, like people just like turning on their own inner, like, oh, I see, I understand, I know who I am now. Now I can relate with more love and more humanity. And that the more of us that do that, that it will overturn the corruption that we see. Like, I so want that, and hold that as a vision in my heart. Like, it matters, the stuff that we're doing.
Yeah.
something that something I think about a lot when it comes to travel to sacred sites, and being in a position of having the resources and privilege and capacity to be able to travel and go to these different places and things. I think about the people who have held the land, and the people who have held, or at times forgotten, or even had the spiritual traditions of that place forced out of their consciousness. Like, you are not allowed to do it, you're not allowed to hold it, and the ways that they have navigated, and then the ways that there may be potential, like suffering as a result of those things. And to have this capacity to go to the sites and to be filled up from the medicine that is there, I think about how, and I don't know that there's a one size fits all answer to this, but I'd love to have a conversation with you about it, Julia. Like, how does one create right relationship, like, as opposed to just going and treating these spiritual sites almost like its own flea market, like, oh, I'm just going to pick and choose, and I'm just here to take and take, but to actually create some kind of reciprocity or proximity to the people, even if the people don't know anymore. Like, I think this is the case in France, that there's many who don't know what France holds, or know about the deep divine feminine, like, lineages and things like this. And yet, like, these sites are there, and how do we be in that right relationship? I'm curious what that practice has looked like for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's very important that, we're bringing this up. And what I'm seeing also with more and more of these sacred places becoming really popular, right? And spiritual communities, and also people like really wanting to travel there, which is not a bad thing. I mean, pilgrimage has a serious practice for centuries and thousands of years. So it is a beautiful thing. But I also, as you're saying, I feel with this privilege of being able to travel, and I'm just going to call it the Western mind. I feel that there is also a lot of, ideas and identities attached to, like, how does this look like, and how specifically, I'm going to call it like around the priestess identity in a way, like how are we going to show up there? And, there's also streams where I feel that it's really about, I'm not at all like against claiming back the feminine. I just feel that it shows up in various facets. And I just, when you were speaking, recall, I am part of this Facebook group by Bart Sharp. I don't know if you know him. Yeah. And there's also like threads going on where people who feel themselves as steward and caretakers of these pieces of land, where they are like, people are just coming and, wanting to bring a talisman, a crystal, but or like light a candle in that cave, but then also just like leaving stuff behind, which is not what we should do, right? It's, as you say, like, we're not coming to extract something. We're coming in the perception and in that, yeah, devotion of reciprocity. So what does that mean? And for me, it's really when I like, it doesn't even start on the land. So when I get a call or like a calling in terms of like, oh, this is a place where I'm supposed to travel solo on a pilgrimage, or like bring people, I'm like in constant communication with the guardians of the land, and communing, even like when I'm here at home, like tuning in, and like, what is it that maybe, yeah, needs to happen, or needs to come forward, and who are the people that I need for this, in terms of like, who am I going to be working with also physically on site? Because it's not me going there, right? Yes, there's places that I have been, also been many times, but I feel the beauty of it is really like working with people who live on the land, who steward the land, who like really feel these codes, or have these codes running through them all the time. And so it's this beautiful amalgamation of the etheric guardians of the land, the people who reside there, bringing their medicine and amplifying the medicine of the land, and also the constellation of the woman that forms. So I'm sure that you can attest to that while preparing for your own pilgrimage. And then the same as on site, you can so much prepare like any itinerary, but like listening to the magic that really wants to unfold, it's just like beyond anything that we could ever plan. And then also bringing these codes home and integrating them, like what does it mean, and what does it what does it mean for my own life? Because we can all be these spiritual beings when we're on pilgrimage, but what about like tending to our children, our partners, our relationship, like bringing this back home into our workspace? That's where the work begins.
Absolutely. I love that. And I find conversations like this so important and often avoided, like because they're not necessarily comfortable. Um, but I think this is so much the medicine, just as much as whatever codes the land wants to wake up is like, if we're doing it well. If we're not doing it well, we're also not really receiving the medicine in a grounded, rooted way. And I've had to learn that from, experience, from being ignorant and doing the things all mixed up and not asking what I am meant to give back, only asking what this thing can do for me, until I realized, and it's very interesting, how the medicine doesn't, or the codes or whatever, it's like they can't go all the way in when we're not doing this in right relation. Have you seen that before?
I have seen that. I have even, experienced for myself that certain places just wouldn't open up. And like in a literal way that they just weren't there. I was there, but the place wasn't there. Like it was. I was looking for a place connected to Bridget, which, when we like follow the Celtic tradition, she also at some point like merges with the Magdalene as that flame keeper. And I wanted to, seek out a place, but I was very much in a rush, and I was literally like squeezing it in a way. And I, the place wasn't there. It didn't open for me.
Wow.
And that was a real teaching, also because then a week after I went to Iona, the Isle of Iona, and there is Bridget's well, like a fountain, the fountain of youth. And there was a real moment where I also understood that, there is a sequencing and timing connected to these places that we are supposed to be given. And so I wasn't supposed to go to that place, or only after I had been to Iona. And
Mhm,
so that deepened my listening, my connecting, as well.
mhm, mhm, mm. Um, you had mentioned this element of like, what what are women going to do with these things when they get home? And I think that I'd like to even kind of go into that, but even in the direction of like, why do you see value for women to do this kind of work? Like, um, in in the practical sense, right? Like, we know it's going to provide us with a spiritual experience if our heart is open and we want to be there. But like, I think that I'm not sure that all women are able to connect the dots to like, okay, I'm running my business as marketing support for spiritual business owners, or I'm C-suite in corporate, or I'm leading in my home as a mother, or whatever the various capacities that women are like finding themselves in leadership. I mean, I could argue leadership is even leadership of self. So leadership in that broad definition, what is the benefit for women to do this type of work? Like, why does it matter, and how is it actually going to help her in her practical life?
Mm. Yeah, I think that is actually the most important question probably that we want to ask ourselves right now. To me, if we go into what Magdalene or Mariam actually means, and I think we've mentioned that, but it's important because for me, it's really one thing that I always come back to. It's a pillar of light. It's the one where the light dwells within. So what does that mean? To me, it means that we hold that we come back to this maybe original template of feminine leadership, in the sense of like it's more like the masculine, that is giving the outward direction, but it's the feminine who is really orchestrating the energies, who is orchestrating the currents of life in a way. So what does that mean? Most of us are in some way or another the power node, or the primal node for a community nervous system. Might be a family, it might be a community, it even might be in our work. And in order for us to like really hold more capacity and to expand that capability to of our extent, that we can hold different perspectives, that we can hold also contradicting perspectives in a way, and just like bring love and compassion to that. For me, it's also, we are, our bodies are like these powerful tuning forks, and a stream that I connect very much with the Magdalene consciousness is the celestial one, where I really see them as these celestial, like high holy women that came down from other planets to bring these higher frequency codes, in the way of when you tune into the stories like with Mother Mary and the Parthenogenesis, or Mary Magdalene and the Sacred Union codes. But this is not just teachings, like this is really applied embodied concepts in the way of how they walk the earth. And so for me, it's very much like an orchestration of frequencies in our day-to-day to become creatrixes, and to really understand that we, first of all, our body is this huge receptor of like reading the field, reading energy all the time. It's just that most of the time we don't have the tools to really translate that, so it also makes sense for our mind, or what to do with it. So I can give you a practical example. Last Friday, I was out with my sister and her kids. And we went to this street market and fair, and it was in the evening, and they took the kids, and I know that my nephew, he's 10 years old, he's very sensitive, he's a Pisces, like he's super emotional, picks up all the stuff, but he doesn't really have an environment where this is being seen or understood. And so we were walking towards this crowd of people, and I could already feel that he was like super anxious, and he started to get whiny and blah 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 blah. And then it's very easy to just brush that off in a way of like, oh, he's having a bad day, or like don't just behave yourself in a way, like, maybe sometimes also we have heard that from a parent. And then sometimes I really use my body as this, call it oracle in a way. And then I got this twitching in the gut, and I understood that it was, for him, it was too much, and he couldn't like process this overstimulation of energy. And asked him if this were too many people for him. And then he looked at me literally as if finally kind of like he could make sense for himself what just had happened. And then I told him, look, this is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to be putting a golden ball of light around you. And so you feel protected, and you have this kind of like shielding. And here's, you got to be like talking to the kids in the way, like, here's your joystick, this is a computer game, so you allow what comes in, and you allow what comes out. You get that? Yes, I get that. Okay, so can we go? Yes, we can go. And the rest of the evening was rather calm. But it's literally, I use a lot of these tools, and also sacred geometry when we come together at the dinner table. I cast a circle. I do a lot of like many rituals just to create connection, and to really bridge the realms of the unseen with the seen. And that is really powerful.
Wow. Wow. I would just like to invite those of you who are following along and listening with us to take a deep breath. That was such a gift of oh my goodness, as you were talking, I was like, oh, you were waking up codes in me. Oh my gosh, when you said the phrase, I have never heard anyone say this before. Like, if you're a woman leader, there's likely a community that you're the primal node for the nervous system of the community. I was like, yes. Oh my gosh. And like so many of the changes that I have been making in the last 5 years of my life have been in service of that. Like,
Yeah.
like finally recognizing like the systems and the, things in my external world are not supportive of me being that grounded, um, person that I know I am, connected to my inner wisdom, connected to my joy, and like it is doing damage to my family. And so like what can I do to, because I mean I had worked and worked, my whole 20s was focused on how can I fix this? There must be something broken here. And I mean, at some point, you get so many freaking tools that you're like, wait a minute. Thankfully, I had a teacher who suggested to me, like, what if you're not a problem? What if it's the things around you that are the problem? And it was like, oh, to come into that. And now knowing the contrast between how I had lived most of my life feeling in my body to how I feel now living in my
Yeah.
body, it is such a night and day difference. It's like, my logic brain can come in and the conditioning can come in and like, wait, what are you doing? And, this wasn't the path that you saw your life taking and da, 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 da. But like, this is so undeniable. It's like, and how that then influences the spaces that we hold. I
Yeah.
see the difference so vastly. It's like whatever layers of abuse we're willing to tolerate in ourselves, we then somehow perpetuate in others. There's just no way around it. No matter how much I was trying to not, I was. Wow. That was so powerful. And then that sweet story with your nephew. It was your nephew, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I literally had the same conversation with my 9-year-old daughter this weekend. Yes, because every once in a while I'll be going through a thing and suddenly she comes up to me and she goes, oh, I was just experiencing so much grief. And I was deliberately trying to like, without saying anything or really actually hadn't even tapped into my tools, was just trying to be like, oh, I'm not experiencing grief when I really was. And I was like, oh, I know better than to like, we just need she needs tools and she needs support. She was like, I've been feeling
Yeah.
so much grief. And I was like, well, wouldn't you know it? It's because I was feeling grief. So, anyway, it is so powerful. I think it matters so much. And it's, I find as someone who's also holding a pilgrimage, I find it hard to put into words. I find this like connection to mother hard to put into words. It's different because it's almost like we're trying to slap a patriarchal explanation onto something that can't fully be explained. It needs to be felt. Do you feel that? Oh shoot. There, are you there?
I'm there. I'm there. I repeat the last part, please.
I said I find with all of these sorts of things of coming into deeper connection to like mother and this like feminine wisdom or sacred feminine, if you will, hard to put into words. And
Yeah.
it's in some ways it's like we're trying to slap a patriarchal label or explanation onto something that almost can't really be described. It has to be felt and experienced.
Yes. Yes, and that's a big part of, I feel, the whole Magdalene experience in a way, because we are tapping into, I often, talk about like direct knowing or the word gnosis. Like, what is that? That is the Sophia wisdom, if you want to say so. Like, this is the part. And I just feel called to share that because just over the weekend I had Magdalene Reiki level 1 training, and we were like going deep into the amygdala, like the part of our brain where this is the fight or flight mode in a way, but then also it's that part where we open up, and or the question of like, where do we stay open, and because we feel safe enough, but actually it's something where we want to contract. And so this is also the part where in the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, it's referenced in a way where this direct knowing comes in, because when it's not a concept that is lived outside of us, and yes, we can read and we can, train in certain things, but experience, like knowing from experience, breaks something open in your cells where it's just like, this is at least my truth. It doesn't have to be the ultimate truth, but like this, I know this to be true. And it's, as you say, like it's something that nobody can take away from you. And then you're not even arguing about it, because it's like, nope, I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Even if it is things that to us are, or we've been taught that it's not possible. And for me, one of the like really great revelations and medicines that also Saint Baume in the south of France, it's possible. It's about
It cut out.
frequency.
You said St. Baume in the south of France, and then it cut out.
Yes, so one of the medicines that I've been experiencing there, and with experiencing again, it's like this direct knowing that in my body, I just felt this to be true, because the mountain where Mary Magdalene lived in the cave, and where they like tell about the story that she was lifted 7 times a day up on top of the mountain by the angels. And what I understood when I was there, that this is levitation, like she levitated, and
Whoa.
it's an adjustment or an attunement to angelic frequencies that she was holding in her body, and that's how she did it. And it's, you might make with that what you want, but it's, for me, it is something where, and then also again, like applying to something where we feel stuck in our lives and our business, uh, something where we put a glass ceiling of this is the limit, no more. And that limit cracks, or that potential breaks open into an experience that you have where it's possible to transcend that. This is freaking powerful. And bringing this back home and applying it to like tangible things in your life and your business, I think this is really what pilgrimage is about.
So powerful. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing. And I really want to honor the way that you lead based on everything that you've shared just with me today and getting to know you today. It's so apparent that you are, leading not from a space of guru, but from a space of like, we're each our own inner wisdom, and like take what serves and leave the rest. And what's true for you may be different than what's true for me, and being able to hold space for that. And I just cherish that so much when I see that trait in another leader. So thank you for the work that you're doing and the way that you're leading, and, the capacity to then take people to these different sites all over the world. So, as we wrap up today, again, I'd invite those of you who are watching to connect with Julia on her different links and things. She's got Instagram and YouTube and the different things. Is there any one thing in particular that you'd like to end with an invitation to?
Sure. I mean, I have a podcast. It's called the Sacred Travel Podcast. And if anybody feels called to go a little deeper, into, I have a whole, playlist about Magdalene sites, but there is also a lot of other conversations, because I really feel that, yeah, people these days are getting the calls. And as we said, there is also people who don't have the means and resources to travel. So that might be another way to connect with. So if you feel called, then I'm happy to welcome you in this space as well.
So awesome. Thank you again so much, Julia. And thanks to those of you who have tuned in with us. Stay tuned for our next episode of the Magdalene interview series, and do go give Julia a follow. We're so grateful to have you on the show, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Ciao.